Hello and welcome to Exam Revisions 2024 English Predictions for higher level English. So just before we begin, we're just going to talk about the layout for your exam in June 2024. So we have paper one, which you'll have a question A and question B. Now, quick reminder not to answer the same question A and B from the same text. So if you answer question A on text one, you cannot use text one again. You'll have a composition piece, which is your personal essay, short story, discursive essay, article, or speech. And on paper two, you'll have your single text, which I'll be using Hamlet, your comparative study, and your poetry. So for comparative study, all the modes are appearing again this year. So that's literary genre, cultural context, and theme or issue. On poetry, we will have 5 poets appearing on our paper and an unseen poetry question. So before we jump into the predictions, we just want to talk about who we are at ExamRevision and what we offer you. So we offer you hundreds of bite-sized videos, tutorials that make learning easier for students. So if you use the code 2024 tips, you'll get 10% off a complete revision package. And what you get with this essentially is you get on-demand video tutorial grinds 24/7 of the entire subject. You get bite-sized video tutorial grinds, PowerPoint presentations, H1 notes, exam and mock questions with all marking schemes, quizzes, reflection log with smart adaptable technology that benefits and aids your learning. So we currently have 8 junior cycle subjects available: Irish, English, maths, history, science, geography, business, and home economics. And for yourselves, we've 17. We've got Irish, English, maths, ordinary and higher level, history, geography, agricultural science, physics, applied maths, biology, chemistry, business, economics, French, Spanish, music, and PE. And this is just what our revision package would look like through many devices. So we've got our laptop here, a desktop, and a smartphone. And just some reviews from students such as yourselves who found ExamRevision quite helpful in their study for the Leaving Cert. So jumping into our predictions, we're going to start with paper one and the composition. So guaranteed 2 short stories, 2 personal essays, discursive essay, speech, article. It's been the trend for many years. If it's not necessarily 2 short stories, it'll be 2 creative writing tasks. So maybe a short story and you have to write something in detective fiction, or you have to write a fairy tale or a fable. It's still creative writing. And for those students who love and enjoy creative writing, it will definitely be enjoyable for yourselves. And 2 personal essays is almost guaranteed at this point. Discursive essay, which is just a discussion essay, speech, article. And for poetry, which is our 50-mark question, prescribed this year is Ní Chuilleanán, Plath, Dickinson, Meehan, Yeats, Heaney, Hopkins, and Donne. So my prediction is Ní Chuilleanán, Plath, Heaney, and Hopkins will appear. They're the 4 ones I would bet on, because Ní Chuilleanán hasn't came up in a while. Plath also hasn't been up in a while. So that's our Irish and our American woman. Meehan has been on the last 2 years in a row, so the chances of her coming up are very slim. Yeats has came up 4 out of the 7 times he's been prescribed. That doesn't mean he won't come up. He still could come up. But I would still place my bets on Heaney appearing over Yeats. Heaney, another Irish man, but in 2023 he received the Nobel Prize for his work, and he wasn't on the 2023 paper. So likely he would come up in this paper. And Hopkins was prescribed 6 times and he only came up once. And Donne was on the paper last year. So I picked Ní Chuilleanán, Plath, Heaney over Yeats, and Hopkins over Donne. but we usually follow 2 women and 2 men, and then we've an extra poet now. So a woman is guaranteed to come up. So Plath and Equivalon I'd hedge my bets on. And I definitely hedge my bets on Hopkins because he hasn't been on the paper a lot. And probable poetry question types. So usually they focus on imagery or just general poetic techniques. So they might be like, poet uses poetic technique to discuss some subject matter. Questions like using adjectives like, oh, it was disturbing yet uplifting to explore the poetry of some poet. And other samples of how the questions generally are laid out are just below there. So poet, well, whoever uses some adjective here, imagery to discuss some form of subject matter, reading the poetry of poet, whoever, can be both uplifting and a disturbing experience. And some poetry is full of some emotion with the occasional glimpses of some other contrasting emotion. Now for Hamlet, you're not guaranteed a character question, although you could get a character question on your paper. You most likely are going to be asked a very broad question and then the option of a more you realize this is I can't think of another word.
What?
Broad versus what's
Narrow? Focused.
So you may be asked a broad question, but you'll also be given the option for a more focused question. So if it's a broad question, you could be asked on dramatic techniques, themes such as loyalty, power, pride, kingship, appearance versus reality. If you are asked about a key character, you might want to consider looking at Claudius, Hamlet, Gertrude, or Ophelia. And if you're not asked on Gertrude or Ophelia, you could be asked the question on the role of women in the play Hamlet. For your comparative, all modes are coming up, so you are very safe to just study one and focus in on one. What of the 2 modes, the 3 modes will you pick? Usually cultural context or theme and issue are the easier ones to answer. And what's what most people opt for, because literary genre is a lot more technical and you can't put in as much waffle as you might with other comparative modes. It's not necessarily harder, it's just a different way and it might not suit people. But if you enjoy literary genre, go ahead. You will also be asked, if you're doing literary genre, to talk about soundtracks, camera angles, metaphors, and symbols. Because the modes change every year, I wouldn't focus too much on picking what will come up out of a question like that because they can change so frequently. So just pick the mode that you prefer and the question you prefer answering on. So you'll be given a question that'll be broken down into 30 marks and 40 marks, or you'll be given a 70-mark question where you have to write about at least 2 texts, at least 2 out of the 3 texts. Where if you answer the question that's broken up from a 30-mark and a 40-mark, you have to answer on all 3 texts. So whichever one suits you best, but I wouldn't focus in too much on what's going to come up for the comparative. It's all very straightforward of an answer. It's just making sure that you're remembered to compare and contrast with your texts and remember your authors, your playwrights, and your directors. So just another thing from us now. So on May 1st, we've intensive revision courses. So get 100% ready with our junior cycle and Leaving Cert May intensive revision courses. So you get expert teaching, exam technique, H1 notes, live and on demand, key tips from written examiners, and focus on most common topics, probable exam questions for Leaving Cert 2024. So Saturday the 18th to Sunday the 26th of May 2024, and it's available for both junior and Leaving Cert subjects. And if you want, visit ExamRevision to find out more information. And I'm just going to leave up this discount code, 2024 tips, for 10% off a revision package. And where you can access this is www.examrevision.ie. Thank you very much and good luck with your exams.